And joining me this morning is Mr. Craig Olson from the Hayward Area School DIstrict, and we'll be talking about maybe some construction updates. What's going on? There's a lot of stuff that was furiously trying to hit a deadline, but some of that stuff just couldn't make it till the beginning of the school year, and you're still having some construction going on. So give us an update.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yeah, the big thing is phase one with our building projects is our high school and primary school basic renovations for deferred maintenance type items as far as water, piping, new roof systems going on. That's gone really well. The first week of school with some of the fixture, furnitures, and equipment, we weren't quite ready as planned. But I had flexibility for our community, flexibility was
Yeah.
shown by our staff, our students. So yeah, right now it looks really good. At the high school yet, our CTE rooms aren't completed yet with our new fab lab,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's getting closer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still functioning right now, but a lot of the equipment isn't in as of yet, but will be any day now. So, then as far as the phase two pieces of the high school and primary school, the new gym addition at the primary school, the walls are up. I'm sure people have seen that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the walls
Yeah.
are up. The cafeteria is pretty much completed. There's still some murals that have to go up that represent Hayward and the tradition of Hayward,
Okay.
and that's going to be a really nice um, addition for us. With then having our cafeteria be a full-time cafeteria,
Mm,
then having the gym be a full-time gym. So
right.
that'll
Yeah.
continue to go on while school's going on, and then the high school gym addition with the walking track and fitness facility that will continue. We also have our central office and high school office additions that those walls are studded up. That concrete got poured that was ahead of schedule,
Okay.
and then the auditorium will be starting in April. So again, all phases of the project should be completed by next school year, and looking forward to see it all done.
Yeah, right. I have a particular interest in the auditorium at the high school level. So, what are some of the plans for changes in that?
New stage floor, all new lighting, audio equipment. It'll be
Okay.
state of the art. All new seats. We just got the prototypes of
Ah,
the new seats. We're getting rid of the 1970s shag orange.
yeah.
So it'll all be Hayward type colors and wood accents with new acoustical sound plates, and
Okay.
it'll be a state of the art facility. Adding a new ADA accountable walkway through the middle of the auditorium, so wheelchairs
Oh,
have access through the middle of that. So
sure.
big challenge there will be just making sure we get the people trained to use that equipment the right way. We're going to
Right.
actually include it in part of our media classes so that we can have some of the students being in charge of that as
Right.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always been when I used to teach at a high school myself. It was nice to have kids involved in that, in the productions, and being there and just operating that equipment and knowing how to operate it safely and stuff. So,
Yeah, and I think it'll be next year when it's completed, but we'll be looking at doing a complete media class because we'll have some history boards, like almost
okay.
like a history of Hayward instead of trophy cases all over the place. It will be not only athletics, but just activities in general that people will be able to have access from their phones, and
Oh,
like they'll
yeah.
be almost like touch walls. So that's going to be exciting, and we'll have some of our kids be in charge of putting all of and archiving all of that material on a year-to-year basis. So
Wow.
trying to get that not only for us doing it for the school, but also for a career possibility for those students that are
Sure.
interested in going, because that job market looks really good right now as well. So
Very cool. Yeah. School board meeting, the annual school board meeting's coming up tonight. What's on the agenda for that? Anything particular that you want to highlight?
no, I mean it's pretty much general. Every year we have to do that. We go through the levy. We'll have the presentation of the 23-24 budget. ESSER funding will be talked a lot about by our business manager Jenny Frank. We
Okay.
elect the chairperson of the meeting. We talk about the general school board, how that works, what meetings they go to. It's a pretty staged, templated meeting.
Yeah,
So
right.
yep. So that's going on tonight if anyone's interested at five
Okay.
o'clock at the high school auditorium.
What's at the high school auditorium this
Correct.
year? Okay,
Yep.
very cool. And then one of the other things I wasn't sure if I had asked you about, but what's enrollment numbers like? And are they trending upward? What are we looking at for growth in the community?
We just had our third Friday count. They're definitely looking at the census. It's not growing, but we're not seeing a big decline in
No
enrollment. Also,
decline.
I
Okay.
believe we're 10 students up from last year, but a lot of that is just open enrollment. When we look at our census, looking at our kindergarten classes or even birth to three, that
Yeah.
is trending down compared to what our junior and senior class is right now. For
Sure.
our number of resident schools, looking at a census, we see those numbers going down, and we've somewhat tried to be fiscally responsible in the fact of when a teacher would retire by attrition, if we saw class sizes trending down from a first grade, we wouldn't replace that position. So we're looking down the road to hopefully not make a bunch of cuts. So
Right. Yeah. Because again, people, as a school district, you got to look at what your incoming numbers are at the primary level to see what the trends will be through those years as those students progress into the senior year at the high school. And it's a, kind of a guessing game, but there is a science to that. And it's pretty tricky.
yeah, and we've been pretty accurate using that census as especially from
Okay.
birth to 3 of our in resident. What's hard to predict is the open enrollments coming in from outside our district that are coming
Sure.
into the district. We seem to trend higher and higher each year with students from other districts that are coming into the district
Okay.
for open enroll. That's a harder one to predict than the actual in resident students. We know that number is going down from senior class to kindergartners coming in.
Okay. Yeah. And how are the charter schools enrollment doing?
Both maxed out. Both our
Really?
Hazel virtual, I'd say I say that charter school is a hybrid between in-person enrichment activities and a true homeschool online curriculum.
Right.
That's maxed out, I think, at 245. And our project-based school, Northern Waters, that's directly
Yeah.
as an instrumentality of our district, that's maxed out at 45. So those numbers have trended very, very well in the last years. And I think the number one, we're marketing and branding those charter schools
Yeah.
better. And also it fits the need for each student. It's in education. Our goal is to not cookie cutter approach anything. Our goal is to provide an individual roadmap for each of the students to get them to what they want to do after
Sure.
graduation from the Hayward School District. So
Yeah.
it just provides another opportunity in a non-traditional setting for those students to achieve whichever route they want to go.
Is there any plans for growing the maximum numbers for those charter schools, or is that a staffing issue or
Staffing becomes a big piece of it. I mean, that's something we look at. And then also to biennium budget wise, just looking, see what's going on with the budget with state aids, where we're going. But
okay.
if we see the increase in interest in those programs, we'll continue to try to increase those programs.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of things happened. Well, we were just talking about security at the schools, at all of the schools, and I know that a lot of the construction things are addressing those extra security measures physically in the school. But we just recently had a couple of virtual, for lack of better terms, threats that were, brought into the school district. And how are you handling these virtual ones? And then how are the improvements going for the physical buildings?
Yeah, on the reactive side, when we get an email threat or something like that, like you said, virtually, we obviously take every threat very seriously. And our local law enforcement has been outstanding. I mean, they respond very, very well. And it's a balancing act of, okay, if one of the email threats says something about we went into the school at 3 o'clock in the morning, we have our cameras that we're looking, and security systems
Yeah.
and burglar alarms that we know that didn't happen. So we'll have extra law enforcement present there. But I think where our law enforcement at the local level, the state level, and even the federal level, when these virtual things happen, they're taking it as seriously as they can to find those folks through addresses and through phones and whatnot, so that we can
Right.
press charges to the utmost ability. So,
Yeah.
and I think our other thing is with our threats is our our goal always is to make sure we have or try to have a relationship with each of our students in the school. One of our staff members need to. We spend a lot of time on building relationships and maintaining those relationships.
Sure.
That if our students see something, hear something, they'll say something. Then they'll contact the teacher will contact the principal will contact me, and then I contact local law enforcement. So it's a big advantage to live in a small town that
Right.
everybody knows each other's cell phone numbers, and it could happen at 11 o'clock at night, and people are still very vested in making sure our kids are
Right.
safe.
Yeah.
So that's the reactive side. It's difficult with the virtual thing, but we take everyone seriously. On the proactive side, with our new building project, one of our 3 elements was safety and security for all of our students. Our new security system that ties in right with local law enforcement. All of the cameras that we have on doors that will send an alarm if one of our doors are ajar. It's that's going to assist us a lot in doing at least doing what we can to make sure our students are safe.
Yeah. And are you using any sort of community service officers in the schools?
We actually hired our second school resource officer. Our school
Okay.
board gave that direction, so they're split between the 4 buildings, and also during key times, lunch times, before and after school times. Again, our local law enforcement has been really good about putting patrol in those areas where our kids are, even if they're not one of our school resource officers. So again,
Sure.
a big advantage of living in a small town.
Yeah, right. Very cool. Wow, that was a lot in such a short time. You got another 30 minutes. What can you talk about?
All right. I guess
No,
one of the things that we're going to talk us quite a bit is just we call it what's our plan, or what's the student's plan. Every student in our
yeah,
district from kindergarten through 12th grade has a plan of what they're going to do after they graduate. Obviously, a kindergartner's plan probably changes, or I hope changes, from the time they're in kindergarten to their senior year, but really let them understand of what they're going to school for, to be a productive member of society. And whether that's helping out our local employment opportunities here in Hayward or Northwest Wisconsin, or on a global level of what they want to do. As I mentioned a little bit about our
sure.
media classes and what they're
Yeah,
doing. So I'll discuss that a little bit of what's your plan. We also have our systemic, we're calling it Be the One, that not only our students, but also our staff, anybody that's around our students or community on each day, has a high level of accountability, that needs to be the one that students want to be around each day. And it goes
yeah,
back to that safety and security piece again, of if we have those relations with our students and can maintain those, that assists us a lot with safety and security, and also just the motivation to come to school, that they know people care about them.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's a really I really appreciate that you're taking that extra effort that every staff person is touching base with students, because it is that personal relationship between student and teacher that really helps, keep that student engaged and know that there's a future for their life and what they do. So it's really important.
absolutely, and not everyone looks the same. That
Yeah,
everyone has a different goal, everyone has a different plan, everyone is dealing with something different at home. So it's a non-negotiable for our staff to be in hallways talking to kids when kids are in the hallway.
yeah,
When you go into our buildings, you should see staff members chatting up our students nonstop,
yeah,
just to help build and maintain that relationship. So
yeah.
I think that's one of the most important things we do in a school system.
Very cool. Well, Craig, I'm gonna let you get back to work. Thank you for coming into the studio here. I appreciate that time, and appreciate all you're doing with our schools.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Take care. All right, Mr. Craig Olson from the